Holy crap, it's finally here. You have no idea how excited I am to finally tackle the Dreamcast SHMUP library and rank the best games on it. Before I even started posting videos on YouTube, I knew I wanted to make this video. 1, because the Dreamcast is my favorite console of all time, and 2, because its SHMUP library is insanely good. Just like the Sega Saturn before, the Dreamcast carried the crown as the best SHMUP console of its generation, and that's despite having a tragically short life. And while Sega abandoned the Dreamcast long ago, it hasn't stopped various indie developers from continuing to develop new games on this incredible platform. In fact, the Dreamcast has continued to receive fairly regular new releases throughout the 2000s, 2010s, and even up into our current year. I mean, the Dreamcast is like truly the console that will never die. And luckily for us shooter fans, many of these new Dreamcast releases belong to our beloved genre of neon bullet insanity. Developers like Dev.Team, HuCast, and Red Spot Games have kept the Dreamcast alive with some outstanding shooters, many of which rival or even surpass a large portion of the shooters released during the Dreamcast life. And look, that's saying a lot considering that many of the shmups released during the Dreamcast's original run were already ridiculously good. Being completely serious, I'd say the Dreamcast is a more worthwhile purchase for an STG enthusiast than, you know, pretty much most other platforms out there. So yeah, with many excellent shmups on the Dreamcast, narrowing it down to a list of just 10 games, yeah, it was pretty difficult. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agonized over whether to include certain games and, you know, how to rank one game over another. I mean, it was not easy. Yeah, creating this list was pretty much like telling me which one of my children I love more, and by the way, I don't have any children, but if I did, I mean, having to choose between that, yeah, I couldn't do it. Okay, that may have been a bit of a stretch and a bit of an exaggeration, but, you know, it wasn't easy. That's my main point. After some difficult cuts and placements that surprised even me, I was able to compile this list of the top 10 Sega Dreamcast shmups that you should 100% play above all others. But yeah, without further delay, let's jump into our list. Number 10, Gunbird 2. We're going to start our list off right with one of the Dreamcast's most famous and loved shooters, but also one of its very best. This 2000 Dreamcast port was fortunately one of those games that pretty much all Dreamcast owners had the chance to play, regardless of which region they lived in. Yeah, that's right, Japan didn't completely bogart this classic shooter like they did with so many others during that time period. But anyhow, Gunbird 2 is an excellent, straightforward shooter that doesn't have any crazy gimmicks or gameplay mechanics, but rather you're just blasting through a bunch of very vibrant, awesome-looking levels with cool, quirky anime characters, cutscenes, and all kinds of other awesome stuff that just made the shmup so memorable. Gunbird 2 also saw a cameo from Darkstalker's Morgan. I mean, thanks Capcom, that was pretty nice of you. Yeah, that's right, Gunbird 2 is one hard-ass son of a bitch, and this game is gonna chew you up, spit you out, and do it all over again. Yeah, this game is just freaking punishing, but hey, that's why we love this genre, right? Regardless of how difficult Gunbird 2 is, however, I absolutely love playing this game, and it absolutely deserves its place on this list. Number 9, Neo XYX. The Dreamcast has received a ton of posthumous love in the form of indie developers creating various new IPs and new games for the console years after Sega pulled the plug on it. And one of those developers whom every shmup fan should be naming their firstborn after in a sign of appreciation is none other than Germany's Dev.Team. Yep, Dev.Team is responsible for creating some of the best and well-known independently released shooters on the Dreamcast during the 2000s and 2010s. And one of the absolute best they developed was 2013's Neo XYX. Yeah, you'd be forgiven for thinking Neo XYX was a lost Toei playing game given its undeniable influence from games like Truxton. However, as much as I love games like Truxton and even their later releases like Batsugun, none of them could even dream of playing as fast and precisely given the time period they were released. Nope, Neo XYX controls like a freaking dream, which is a good thing since this game throws so much at you so fast that if you weren't able to move with the agility of a hummingbird, it would be impossible to get through this freaking monster. You also better love using bomb attacks since Neo XYX makes you rely heavily on using them to get out of the game's many hairy situations you'll find yourself in. On top of its exemplary gameplay and its amazing sprite-based graphics, which, I mean, they're just downright sexy, the audio is also top-notch. So yeah, if you just love old Toei playing games or just want to see what Truxton 3 may have been like, definitely check out Neo XYX on the Dreamcast and let the bullet hell insanity wrap itself around you like a warm blanket. Number 8, Zero Gunner 2. So yeah, for decades, Zero Gunner 2 was a game only known to the Japanese and hardcore Dreamcast collectors. Fortunately, this is no longer the case, and Zero Gunner 2 has been ported to the Switch, Steam, and even has a physical release if you actually enjoy owning your games. However, Zero Gunner 2 started its life out in the arcades and also on the Dreamcast, making it just one more reason why the Dreamcast is still amazing. Released by Keio just a few months after the Dreamcast was discontinued in 2001, Zero Gunner 2 has you piloting one of 3 attack helicopters as you destroy tons of planes, boats, tanks, trains, behemoth bosses in this fully 3D rendered shmup extravaganza. More than Zero Gunner's surprisingly good 3D visuals, its unique gameplay of having you rotate your chopper 360 degrees during combat. Mastering this unique style of gameplay not only requires you to avoid being hit, but also managing the hordes of enemies and projectiles trying to frag you. The end result of all this is this game being very difficult to put down, and absolutely a refreshing change of pace to your run-of-the-mill vertical shmup. So yeah, if you want something different and also something pretty amazing, then you should absolutely check Zero Gunner 2 out ASAP. Number 7, Shikigami no Shiro 2, aka Castle Shikigami 2. So yeah, there aren't too many shmups out there that attempt to insert a story into the game, pieced together by character interactions, cutscenes between stages, and when it does happen, it's actually kind of awesome. 2003 Shikigami no Shiro 2 does exactly this, while also creating a unique gameplay experience as well. Each of the selectable characters in this game not only play considerably different than one another, and that's not just in their shot type, but also their Shikigami special, which will really change the way you play the game, depending on who you select. This is honestly something you can't say about very many shmups, but Shikigami no Shiro 2 does it in a way that makes this game an absolute blast to play. Shikigami no Shiro 2's Dreamcast port was only released in Japan, and while yeah, that's kind of a bummer, I actually am going to recommend anyone interested in playing this game pick up its PS2 port, which was released in North America and Europe thanks to XS Games. Beyond the fact that this is the most accessible way of playing this game, its English dub is possibly the most hilariously bad dialogue and voice acting I have ever heard in a video game, shmup or otherwise. I'm not even exaggerating, it had me in fucking stitches on the floor at times with how random and nonsensical the translation ended up being. It literally takes an already good shmup and honestly makes it even better by making it a comedy. So yeah, the Dreamcast version is freaking awesome, but the localized PS2 port is even better. Still, even without the hilarious English voice acting, it still manages to be one of the best Dreamcast shooters money can buy. Number 6, Trizeal. Developed by the pretty obscure studio Triangle Service, Trizeal was their first rodeo on the Dreamcast, and boy, what a rootin' tootin' time this game ended up being. Rendered in full 3D, Trizeal has you collecting power-ups for 3 different shot types that you can freely switch between. However, after collecting enough power-ups and hopefully not dying while you're at it, you'll obtain the ultimate weapon in this game, the Trizeal. I mean, that's what I'm assuming it's called, you know, the Trizeal, I mean, 3 power-ups, whatever. Anyhow, the Trizeal allows you to utilize all 3 weapon types at once, and essentially turns you into the god of death. But yeah, even then, this game is one hard son of a bitch and will test even the most seasoned STG player. Luckily, Trizeal also controls extremely well, allowing you to pull off some ultra-tight, precise maneuvers, which you'll need to master if you're going to make it to the end of this game. And luckily for us shmup fans, a Japanese Dreamcast is no longer the only way to enjoy Trizeal, thanks to an updated version available on Steam called Trizeal Remix. In the Steam version, the gameplay is more or less the same as the Dreamcast version, but with updated visuals. It also got a sequel on various platforms too. But whether you got the much more accessible Steam version or the OG version on the Dreamcast, you will not be disappointed with this outstanding shmup. Number 5, Stormwind. You'd think with how much HuCast and NG Dev.Team dominated the independent Dreamcast shmup scene over the last 14 years, that the best indie shooter would have to be from one of these 2 developers. Nope. In fact, the company responsible for making the best indie shmup on the Dreamcast only ever released 1 game on it. Yep, Durinic's only Dreamcast game, Stormwind, was released in 2013 to much hype from myself and many others. And yep, Stormwind absolutely delivered on the hype with some of the best, most amazing visuals of any game on the Dreamcast like ever. On top of that, Stormwind's weapon and power-up system is fun as hell, its soundtrack is catchy, its bosses are larger than life and memorable, and just overall, this game is just so much damn fun. And yeah, if you want to hear me talk about this game more in length, I actually did a full review on Stormwind a couple years ago, so yeah, go and check that out right after this video. However, one thing that I failed to mention in that review is that Stormwind was actually ported to the Nintendo Switch and PC in 2019 as Stormwind EX. Essentially, the game plays and looks just as good in these modern ports as it does on the original Dreamcast version. So yeah, if tracking down the Dreamcast version sounds worse than getting a colon colonoscopy for you. Yeah, just stick with these newer ports on newer platforms. But no matter what version of Stormwind you decide to go play, this is one of the best independently developed shmups ever released on any platform. But yeah, just make sure you remember that Stormwind called the Dreamcast home first, and that's why it ends up on this list as one of the best shmups on the Dreamcast ever made. Number 4, Mars Matrix. In some weird twist of fate, ironically, most of the best shmups released on the Dreamcast were released well after Sega bowed out of the console business. One massive exception to this happens to be one of the most underrated shmups ever made, Mars Matrix. While its visuals wouldn't necessarily be considered, incredible or outstanding by any stretch of the imagination, literally everything else about Mars Matrix is. The gameplay especially is where Mars Matrix really leaves a mark on anyone fortunate enough to play it. Mars Matrix utilizes a fun leveling system that has your basic fire mode becoming more and more powerful the more you play it. However, that's only a third of the story here. You are also given an incredible blast attack that is devastating to anything at point-blank range. However, what really makes Mars Matrix stand out is its awesome reflect attack that has you chucking the enemy's bullets right back in their stupid faces. Yeah, you're really gonna have to strategize when and where to use the reflect attack and for how long, as it requires a recharge whenever you use it. And yeah, you could always just say F it and hold the reflect attack button down and just nuke the entire screen if you want to also. Seriously guys, this gameplay is absolutely addictive. Just be prepared to die over and over again while you master Mars Matrix brutal difficulty. And then there's the many modes in this game, its catchy soundtrack, unlockables, and various other things that make this one of the most replayable shmups you will ever come across. And yeah, I'm aware that this game costs a fortune these days, but honestly, with it being this good, I can confidently say it is worth picking up. Mars Matrix, like it, love it, play it. Number 3, Border Down. The Japanese game developer G-Rev was a late player in the Dreamcast Live. However, as the saying goes, it's better to be late to the party than never to arrive at all, right? And in the case of G-Rev, every shmup fan should rejoice that they blessed Sega's final console with a series of shooters that are among the best ever made. Their first solely developed in-house STG was a kick-ass horizontal shooter called Border Down, released in 2003, a whopping 2 years after the Dreamcast was discontinued. Border Down was inspired by the classic Taito shmup Metal Black, and in many ways acts as a spiritual successor to that game. Pretty much, Border Down has just about everything you could ever want in a great shmup, and way, way more. Amazing graphics and audio? Check. Branching stage paths and tons of replayability? Check. Multiple fire modes and a Kamehameha-style super laser? Check, check, check. Border Down is such an amazing shmup, and despite it being hard as balls, it'll keep you coming back over and over again. Unfortunately, this is where I get to be the bearer of bad news for everyone. Yeah, Border Down is still to this day an arcade and Japanese Dreamcast exclusive, and has never been ported to any other home platform to this day. So yeah, at this point, you pretty much all realize that translates into, yeah, you're gonna have to pay out the ass if you want to copy this game. And this is especially true if you want the special edition of the game, which also comes with its incredible soundtrack. But with how good Border Down is and how much replay value it has, it's hard not to recommend this game despite how expensive it is. It's truly one of the best shmups on the legendary Dreamcast, and that's why it's number 3 on this list. Number 2, Under Defeat. And G-Rev is back again, and at this time at the number 2 spot. I told you G-Rev was freaking amazing. Yeah, for some reason G-Rev just couldn't let the Dreamcast go, like so many of us. And if you're playing Under Defeat, you'll be thankful they didn't let it go. Under Defeat is a very unique shmup set in an alternative reality during World War II. The ship you pilot is a helicopter which rotates 120 degrees in either direction, which might sound like a bit of a downgrade compared to the Dreamcast's other incredible rotating chopper game, Zero Gunner 2. And yeah, while Zero Gunner 2 does allow you to rotate 360 degrees to wreck enemies all around you in every direction, the gameplay, balancing, and overall design of that game just, I don't know, it kind of falls short compared to Under Defeat in nearly every other way. Not only that, but Under Defeat just looks better too. It sounds better, and yeah, it'll definitely leave more of an impression on you too after you're done playing it. And look, that's definitely saying a lot, consider Zero Gunner 2 made this countdown as well. Under Defeat's original release on the Dreamcast was released only in Japan, but luckily Rising Star Games released this game on the PS3 and 360 outside Japan in 2012. So yeah, I mean, it does kind of suck that the Dreamcast version is a Japanese exclusive, but it is at least nice to know that there are alternative ways to play this game if you want to avoid importing a copy. But no matter which console you decide to play Under Defeat on, just play this underrated excellent shooter. Number 1, Ikaruga. Alright, okay. I know you all knew that this was going to end up on this list at number 1, but, you know, honestly, was there really any other option for a number 1 shmup on the Dreamcast? Yes, probably every good thing you've ever heard or read about Ikaruga is 100% true. Yes, it is one of the best shmups ever made. Yes, its polarity and chaining system are addictive as hell and contribute heavily to Ikaruga's legendary difficulty. And yes, this game deserves just about all the praise it gets routinely from shmup and non-shmup fans on every corner of the internet. If you've watched my YouTube channel long enough, you know I have it bad for Treasure's other shmup, Radiant Silvergun. In fact, Ikaruga is kinda, sort of, partially a sequel, in a sense, to Radiant Silvergun, despite it having very few similarities outside its genre and chaining system. Treasure's masterful craftsmanship is also present in Ikaruga, and you will almost never find any other shooter anywhere close to as good as Ikaruga, I promise you that. Oh yeah, and you thought you heard the end of me praising G-Rev from earlier. Well, they actually helped Treasure make this game, as well as 2004's Gradius 5. Okay, I'll shut the hell up about G-Rev now. But yeah, the Dreamcast holds the distinction and honor of being the first console Ikaruga called home, despite most people being most familiar with its GameCube port. These days, more or less every platform imaginable has its own Ikaruga port now. I mean, even Skyrim at this point has probably started to take notice. But whether it's the OG Dreamcast release or any of the 500 other platforms Ikaruga has been ported to, just be sure to play this shmup masterpiece. And with that, there is the top 10 Sega Dreamcast shmups ever made. But yeah, that's all for this time. Please be sure to check out some of my other videos and also check out many of my other shmup countdowns and reviews. And trust me, there'll be plenty more of them down the road, I promise. If you like this video, you should definitely sub to my channel for more shmup, fighting game, pinball machine, and other arcade game related content in the future. And who knows, maybe I'll throw in a surprise here and there with some non-arcade countdown one of these days. Who knows, you'll have to subscribe to find out though. But anyhow, take care everyone, and I'll see you again soon.